Welcome everybody to Catfish Weekly, presented by Whiskerware Apparel. Tonight we have Joe Gordon on with us from Pennsylvania. We're looking forward to a good show with him tonight. How's it going, Chuck?
Yeah, winter blues just around the corner. I'm very eager to everybody get together, do some really good fishing, and get together with all of our good friends again.
Oh man, Winter Blues is going to be an exciting tournament. We had a tournament over the weekend in Memphis, and congratulations to Dave Shipman and Natalie Brooke Wilkins uh, on the win. That's an outstanding deal down there in a two-day tournament to be able to pull that off. And I want to give a shout out to Teresa and Tim Owensby and Jody Atkins. They come up and fish unfamiliar water with some of the top guys in the nation and got second place, and they wasn't very far out of first place after the first day, and they wasn't very far out after second place. Those guys had it going on. They done a really good job, and I'm proud to know them.
Oh yeah, they're great guys. I fished with them in a few tournaments this year, and can't wait to fish with them some more. Um, they got a guy's name. I think his name was Shane Williams. I can't remember his last name, but he was a military guy that started the Hill Jacks. He was a very frequent member of Catfish One, and when he went back home to Tennessee, Jody took the Hill Jack Catfishing Club Trail or whatever they're calling it now, and he's still doing great things with it.
And
Uh,
that's good. We get a lot of people sending messages, and I know you get them. I get tons of them. My message box and stuff had blowed up today, and it's been really busy. But these guys are after information on tournaments and clubs and things like that, and I think that's a great deal because the more people we get interested in the sport, the better off we're going to be.
yeah, he did great things. Last year he brought a Hill Jack tournament all the way to Lay Lake and had a tournament up here for everybody to come fish that fishes the trail, but also to benefit the guys who were going to come fish the Cabela's super event the very next weekend. So, it killed two birds with one stone. It was like they did a field trip. It was probably a couple of miles drive, a couple of hours for them, and they come up here and they caught some really good fish during their tournament. All their pro staff, their pro type anglers, they came up here the very next weekend and fished the super event and did really good.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's just outstanding that them guys get to do that, and like I say, very happy for all of them, and congratulations to all the winners down there. Uh, we happen to have Joseph Gordon from Pennsylvania on the show with us tonight. How's it going, Joey?
Oh, it's going good. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. You and I have known each other online for several years and done some projects together and different things. And earlier this year, Matt McIntyre had sent me a message, and we talked online and on the phone and a couple of different things. And he had a big project at his work that was going on up your way, and was looking for somebody to fish with. And Matt's the kind of guy that he can't go a summer without fishing. It just ain't going to happen. And I thought that you guys would make a good team to fish together, and I knew that you all would get along really well. And as it turned out, it really did work out for you.
Yes, sir. It was really cool, getting to fish with somebody that basically he's been doing tournaments like you know for probably about 14 or 15 years, and that's something that's still fairly new up this way, and I'm starting to try and grow it and everything. It's good to have somebody with that kind of perspective that's been to so many and is able to share a lot of that information with me and everything. And it was just an awesome experience. He's such a good guy, and a good guy to just go around and fish with overall, you know. So I apologize he couldn't be here, but he's working on that project at work, and he's working late so he can get back home to his family and get back home to fishing the Mississippi over there in Missouri and whatnot. So.
Well, like you and I had discussed before the show, we was talking about that, and Matt had planned on being on the show, and I told you that as hard as good jobs are to come by these days, if a job gets in the way of being on Catfish Weekly, you need to take care of your job and your family and your priorities first, and Catfish Weekly will always be here, and Matt's the kind of guy that we would love to have on the show anytime that he feels confident about being on the show. So we'll get him on at a later date, and we'll just go on with what you guys got going. And I know that Chuck is just sitting there. He can't wait. He's got a list of questions to ask you and stuff to visit with you about. So I'm going to let him do that right now.
All right, Joe, I got a list for you, man.
All right.
So Matt teamed up with you, and y'all went and tackled a tournament called the Field and Stream Classic.
Yes, sir.
Which wasn't a very small tournament. There was 71 boats in it, and y'all seem to have came out on top of the leaderboard on that one.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about this tournament, how long it has been around, and what it means to Pennsylvania catfishers to be able to have this type of tournament around, and what it meant to you to win it.
Well, sir, I think that was the second year for that tournament. It was put on by some friends of mine. They run that tournament, and then I have my tournament, the Steel City Catfish Classic, that I run at a later date. I don't get to fish mine, so it's good to be able that they have one that I can actually get to go fish. So when we showed up, there was really no indication that there'd be 71 teams. Usually, the tournament's like at average about 30, maybe 35, 40 teams. And when we showed up the morning of the tournament for the meeting, 71 teams there, they announced, was quite impressive. But we had a good plan. We didn't really waver from our plan. We went out there and did it. And the crazy thing about when you're fishing tournaments is, unless you're direct contact with somebody else that's at the tournament site, you really just don't know what it's going to take to win. You just catch as many big fish as you can and hope that when you go back, you did pretty good. But we came out on top. I think we had, there's no blue cats here, so it's going to be all channel cats and flatheads, and it's a daytime tournament, which makes it a little difficult because then flatheads can be kind of difficult to get there in daytime. But we knew that if we got some flatheads in the first couple hours, we might have a good chance, and that's what we did. I think we had a 35-pounder, a 25, and an 18 or 20-pound flathead within the first hour, and then we just supplemented with some decent channel cats, and we knew we had a pretty good chance at least being in top 5. That was our plan.
So the tactics that y'all were working together on in the boat, it was stuff that he was already used to, and he was showing you some of his stuff, or was you showing him some of your stuff, or how was it going around that time?
I'll tell you, it was a little bit of both. We went around, and since I don't really haven't really had much experience like tournament fishing and being on a boat period, most of my fishing is done from the bank. Being able to get on there and see how he uses the electronics, and that's a big time thing if you want to catch fish consistently. And that was like huge, because now I'm able to see the things I can't see, and he's showing me, what I'm looking at and what I'm looking for. And so I'm telling him what I would like as far as a good place to catch a flathead, and he can look in there and find it. And once we're able to go out and mark some spots like that, we kind of labeled them from best to worst, and had like a spot A, spot B, spot C, and spot D. And basically, hey, we're going to start at spot A, but if the first 20 minutes or so we don't get anything, we're going to move to spot B because we only got that first couple hours to try and get some decent flatheads if we're going to try and win. So as far as tactics, really the only change from what I learned from going out to monsters is you can't there's not so much current, up here. It's kind of like fishing monsters in that respect, but you don't do a whole lot of, everything's anchored up, and you're just basically, you're finding your structure, and you're hoping that they're going to be there the first couple hours, and you're fishing up right above the structure and right into it, trying to pull them up out. But and that's something he's done down there before, so it wasn't nothing that much different. But the biggest thing was his use of the electronics on the boat, and showing me, how they're using those electronics nowadays to catch fish. That was a huge thing, and it gave us a big advantage in the tournament.
What river system was this on?
It's on the Ohio River, but it's right at the start of the Ohio. This area used to have blue cats a long time ago. Used to have a lot of different fish. But in the industrial age, in like the 30s, 40s, with all the factories that were here, the steel mills that were basically, running the war effort and everything in the 40s, it killed off almost everything. And so really all it was left was like some maybe carp and, brown bullheads and stuff like that. The blue cats were killed off because their forage fish were killed off. And they just never restocked them. I think they did restock in the early 80s flatheads just to help control fish populations, but they never did restock blues, so they still don't have them here.
Okay, the Field and Stream, the magazine themselves sponsored this tournament. Is that who it was named after, or was it come from another totally different?
Well, interesting fact. Field and Stream store, Field and Stream magazine, completely separate entities, don't have nothing to do with one another, believe it or not. I didn't know that until this past summer. I did a video shoot with the magazine. But it was the store, the guy Ben Sladek is his name, and he works at they have a store up in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, and they help him to put on his tournament. So it's a Field and Stream store, and I believe that's actually owned by Dick's Sporting Goods.
Okay. So this was the second year for it. Has there been any other type catfish events that have been held around the Pennsylvania area within, throughout the years that, was able just to come together and make an event like this? Was there separate trails, or has this just been something that growed over just a couple of years?
When I did my tournament, it was like the first, I would say, more of a big money catfish tournament, and then now we have a couple others popping up, such as that one. Before that, you had a lot of it's a weekend day, $20 a team, you get some people, show up, and you have like a tournament like that, and that's great and everything, but the way they do the weigh-ins, it's mostly just channel cats, and that's awesome too. But the way I looked at it is, why not try to go after the big ones? Why not have a weigh-in where you get, big flatheads involved and get some money and some sponsorship involved? And that's what I started in 2013 with my Steel City Catfish Classic tournament. And then that kind of happened a couple years after I started my club back in 2011 after getting out of the Army. And since then, I've been contacted. It's growing exponentially with the rest of the sport. It's just that, and whenever you get to talk to Matt, I explained it to him like this. This area, because it's trout is king. It's almost probably what it was like back in maybe 15, 20 years ago. Catfishing was like out west more. You have a lot of people that are interested, and they're starting to get the gear, and they're starting to figure things out. But you don't have a lot of the specialized big catfish boats here. You don't have the tournament trails. The support stuff like that. And but it's growing, and as you can see, within 2 years to have a tournament with 71 teams is pretty impressive. So it's growing for sure.
Okay, me and you talked about this at the Monsters of Ohio at the weigh-in. We talked forever. Let's hear about, some of the places you was stationed at and was able to catfish during your, military.
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, the way I got into it, I grew up here in PA, so like I said, smallmouth and trout is what I was raised on. So my last couple years in the military, I was actually out in Fort Leonard Wood, and that's where I did my basic and everything. And I had a buddy, really good guy. He was into catfishing, and he was pretty happy to be stationed there because he was telling me how good it was to catfish there and here and there. And we got into some arguments about it, like I'm sure a lot of cat guys get with other, guys from fishing for other species. And he said, you know what? I'm done talking about it. If you want to come out, I'll take you out, and you'll like it. I guarantee it. And sure as heck, he took me out on the, I think on the Missouri River, if I'm not mistaken. And I caught I caught a flathead, and it wasn't all that big, but to me it was pretty big. It was probably about 15 or 16 pounds, and he basically, I wasn't used to using that heavy a tackle and everything, so I think he even cast the rod out for me. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. He's like, it's small. We could use that for bait if we wanted to. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And, after that, I was like, this is really cool. I went out with him, a couple more times. But unfortunately, when it's time to get out and leave, it's time to get out and leave. And came back to Pennsylvania, and I was fortunate enough to be able to move where I wanted, and not really thinking of anything catfishing in mind. I wanted to live in Pittsburgh. Promised my wife I'd live close to the city because I come from podunk nowhere. And went there, and lo and behold, I do a little bit of research and find out, man, they got these catfish here. I can fish them right here, So I get to follow my steelers and fish for catfish. This is awesome, And I started getting into it and get my own tackle and everything. Of course, there's a lot of growing pains involved, a lot of embarrassing moments when you first start using a bait casting reel. And as sure as everybody can attest, the first time you try to zing a big bait, heavy weight out there, and it balloons up and you look kind of stupid. But it's been great. There's been so many great people involved. And I really just can't say enough about it. It's so cool. That's when I decided, what, there's so many great people, and the internet's really, I think, what helping the sport grow so fast is we're a group of people that are internet savvy to use it to our advantage. And I started my club, and the rest is kind of history, yeah.
So when you started your club up after you got back, how rapidly did it grow? Where'd y'all start out with a number amount of people showing up and participating, and to where's it at now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a group of probably about 15 or 20 people that I would fish with on a pretty regular basis. And some of those guys, I mean, they've been fishing here for these fish for like 40 years, for a long time. And so I really looked to them for guidance when I first started. But, being a young guy and kind of like, what, if it isn't there, that kind of army mentality. If it isn't there, I'll make it. If I got to get over it, I'll get over it, kind of thing. That's why I started the club, because there wasn't one, and I wanted one. But the first year, there's probably only about 30 or 40 people involved. But, the more you go out fishing and you meet people and you share some information, you maybe share a piece of tackle that, that they don't know about, or show them something they didn't know. Well, that really... and I think that's why why the sport's growing too, and the sharing of information, and that really shows them like, oh wow, this is cool. I'd like to be able to get information like this all the time. And I'm like, well, here's how you do it, man. I got this club I run. You get on there and you can talk to people about this stuff and get the information and share it yourself, and that's how it grows. And this is started in 2011, so this is about almost year 5. On the books officially, there's over 100 and some members. There's usually about 15 to 20 people that'll show up to a given gathering, dependent. Not everybody can, work related and stuff like that. And the cool thing is, not everybody that's in the club is actually from right here. There's people from this state. There's people from other states that are involved in everything and share information. So it's really cool.
Okay, tell us about your little TV episode you had on the cooking channel. That's the first time I ever seen you, and y'all had a small little fishing trip and then cooked some fish, and you was on TV, and I'm like, man, these guys got it going on. They're sitting there talking about CPR, conservation, and such. on the cooking channel, and you know, they're even going to cook up some eaters with this kick butt batter that they're whipping up here, and this is going to be a good show. And I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah, and it kind of happened just, you know, kind of weird. I'm no better fisherman really than most other guys. The only thing that's unique is that you got catfishing being done right in the city. And so I was out with my wife one day, and I get a call from a guy saying he's an outdoors writer, and that's something I had done a couple interviews for newspapers and stuff. And so originally that's what I thought that phone call was going to be about. And he's asking me questions. Eventually he says, "Have you ever heard of the Travel Channel?" I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Have you ever seen Bizarre Foods?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been watching it since it came on the air in 2007. Me and my wife love that show, you know." And he said, "Well, I'm calling you as a third party for this show. Would you mind if one of their producers called you and asked you some questions?" And I said, "No." And at that point, I'm kind of thinking, okay, somebody's put me on now. So I'm not thinking I'm going to get a call. Thought somebody was playing a good one on me. And later, I'm out eating lunch with my wife, and I get a call from a nice young lady calling from Minnesota. And I did some research and knew that that's where the headquarters for the show was out of. And from there, they asked me some questions and said, "You know what, I think we want to do this." And I kind of set everything up. I went down and took pictures of where we'd be fishing so they could have some meetings about it, and made it happen. One of the things, when they showed up, it was cool to meet somebody you see on TV, Bizarre Foods America, Andrew Zimmern, and they show up, and we filmed it backwards. So I had a couple eaters that I went out and caught just to be sure, and I was keeping them alive in the bait tank. And so we actually filmed the cooking and the eating part first in the daylight. And then that night, we went out, and we had one take to do it. And so I was like, man, this could really go bad because it's fishing. You never know.
That's right.
You know, but I told him, I said, I think it's going to be good. It looks like we got a nice low pressure system, got some clouds going on, just on the verge of rain, but not quite. And I took him to a spot more for the scenery than the fishing, because every shot that you get to see in that show is pretty cool looking. You get the stadiums and the city in the background. And luckily, you know, put him on it pretty close, so about 19, close to 20-pound fish, and right away within the first 15 minutes we got it. And I just thrown out a cut chunk of bluegill because I thought, you know, that's going to be, they usually find it pretty fast. And he gave him the rod and said, "Go to town." And they cut out a lot of the fight. It was a little bit longer than what they make it out to be, but I was pretty stoked we got that. And then we even caught a couple little eaters there to make it even pretty seamless. And I told them beforehand, look, if anything else that you cut out during editing, because I can't control what you guys edit out, please keep in the part about CPR, because that's like the biggest thing. I said, I really don't feel comfortable doing a show about eating fish and catching fish if you guys aren't going to make sure that you basically emphasize that the big fish like this, the breeding fish, get put back in, and that really, if you're going to be eating them, you need to be eating the smaller 10 pounds, 9 pounds and under, which is still a lot of fish. It fed that whole crew for sure. And you know, I'm so happy when I got to see the episode a couple months later, and they kept that part in there, because we filmed all day. You only get to see 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, man, it was great. And I can't remember who put on there. I think it was Sites.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah, he posted and he said, "I'm gonna be on Cooking Channel in 15 minutes doing a catfish show." And I'm like, what's this all about? So I flicked it on there and I watched it, and it was a great show. I really enjoyed it. And you know, y'all two you know, cooking together and doing that little fishing together, and it was great.
It was intimidating, you know, because that guy's a chef and he's on TV, and I have a, you know, some pretty plain Jane recipe, beer batter and stuff, and I'm there cooking in front of him, kind of nervous and everything. So you know, luckily they didn't film me cooking too much, so it was good.
Oh, he was raving on it. He loved the way it tasted.
That dip that he made on there, I actually had that recipe. It's really good. It's really good. And then I did a show recently too. It was pretty cool.
Okay, tell us about the rivers. You did us a little map up I asked you to do. And you know, most of the flatheads in Pennsylvania, or maybe all of them, uh, you can tell them more about that, are not native to Pennsylvania. You know, and they started becoming a problem after a while, and they were thinking about that they wanted to start, you know, wiping them out and all this, and then they just turned around, changed their mind, and said we might as well just work with what we got, and let's try to make it a sport fish, and we'll just keep them around. Um, if you would tell us some of the rivers and the situation, how this handled, and what rivers they're in, and how well they're doing there now.
All right. So I'll hold up a map here and talk while I do it here. Hopefully, you guys let me know if that's good right there. Is that good?
Yeah, move it back just a little bit, and yeah, that's fine. Up a little bit. Yeah, that's good.
All right. So the only place that they're really native is over here on the western side right here in this Ohio River basin. That's where they're originally native. Okay, so these other spots where I have it highlighted here and here, they're invasive species technically. They probably just showed up. They started catching them about 15 years ago. And so you got the biggest river over here. The hot spot's going to be the Susquehanna. And not the whole way, but about midway up. And about, I guess there's a dam by Sunbury you can catch them down by. And then over here, you got the Delaware and the Schuylkill. And they're there as well. And they're growing exponentially over there. And those two spots in particular, they started to try to eradicate them because in fear of them eating all the smallmouth, which is a big thing for them over there, the smallmouth fishery. And eventually they realized they're in there so thick that you're not going to be able to get them out anyway, so it's pretty much a waste of money and time. So they've kind of embraced them. You know, the DNR has been kind of advertising them as a good table fare for the smaller ones, and the bigger ones, they're basically trophy fish that you can go catch, you know, real big fish. And you got groups of people, my partner for the Monsters in Ohio, Glenn Orr, you know, specifically, he's been running a guide service over there in Susquehanna the last couple of years, and he even started up a pretty cool tournament series over there, a Catfish Mafia tournament series. And heck, I even did a show that's on Field and Stream's Hook Shots channel. It was Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, and they were catching them over here in the Schuylkill, and we were catching them over here in Ohio. We did like a Pittsburgh versus Philly showdown on the show. It was pretty cool. But yeah, they're there, and where I have it circled is probably like the hotter spots, and you can probably catch them everywhere there that I have highlighted though. And yeah, I mean, channel cats are native throughout the whole state. If you want to catch channel cats, you can do that just about anywhere in the state. And they got some bigger ones in some of the lakes that are in the state too. But that's where the flatheads are at, right there.
Awesome. So, is the state record flathead? Is it out of a river system where they're native or non-native?
It's out of Blue Marsh Lake, and I'm not sure if that's a native spot or not. I think it is. I think they would have said something about it if it wasn't when I read about it. But it actually comes out like a reservoir towards the western part of the state.
But so what about channel cat? State record channel cat. What type of waters did it come out of?
I think it came out of one of the rivers, but it's 35 pounds. It's a pretty decent channel cat. I've never seen one that big. I know they get them that big in some of the reservoirs out west, and there's some lakes where they catch 20s pretty regularly around here, and I've seen quite a few of those. But yeah, the 35 pounds, and I'd have to go look it up exactly. I know that I think pretty sure it came out of one of the rivers. I think it's probably Upper Allegheny or something.
Yeah, you know, we was talking about my buddy Marty Russell. He's a fellow veteran of Desert Storm with me. We was stationed together in Germany and in Fort Benning. We was in Desert Storm together. He's a big American Legion. He's been over the American Legion up in his hometown for many years. He puts in everything he has into helping veterans. We did a lot of fishing on the Chattahoochee River in Columbus, Georgia, and he was hooked on flatheads and did not want to go home. He wanted to try to find a job down here so we could fish. and he is going to be excited. He probably don't even know that they're 15 miles from his house. We just figured that out a while ago, and I'm gonna call him later, and I'm gonna tell him all about it. And he's gonna be, because he's always telling me, "Man, you're making me sick posting these pictures." And I'll be posting a 20-pound fish, and he goes, "We don't have those up here. Don't even show me that." So when he sees that there's 40 and 50-pound flatheads 15 miles from his house, he's going to be very happy, I believe, and he probably don't even know it.
Oh yeah, he'll be out there as soon as it gets warm, I'm sure. You know, throwing something below that dam.
That's going to be great. All right, Lyle, I'm going to pass him over to you. I'm sure I might have a couple of things pop up here at the end, but I know you're ready.
Absolutely. Joe, Brad Bex would like to know what kind of bait you guys was catching those flatheads on up there.
We were using basically like we had some suckers, and I think that was probably the thing we caught most, like sucker heads. We were using all cup bait that morning. Usually, if I'm going to stay out all night, if I can get a decent size like live suckers, or live bluegill is good, because I'm not saying it's the best bait, but it might be the easiest bait to keep alive and to get be able to transport and and use. Suckers, I've used drum, which are easy to catch up here. So it's just stuff like that, nothing super fancy or anything.
Okay, good. Chris Jenkins had left a message on here that he says it's a huge adjustment going to a boat and having electronics from bank fishing. He's making that adjustment now himself, and I know that to be true because Chris has just recently bought a boat and started fishing a few tournaments, and he's been very successful, and we're very happy for him. How much difference was it when you started fishing with Matt and he started turning you on to all this stuff that he does? Because let's face it, Matt McIntyre is one of the premier fishermen in our area, and when he shows up to a tournament, he's one of the guys that you're going to have to beat to get in the money. So I know that he had a lot of stuff that he probably shared with you guys after fishing all summer, and how much of an adjustment was that for you?
Well, it's definitely an adjustment because there's a lot more involved. And, fishing from the bank, you basically you find your spot and you're kind of stuck with that spot where you can get to, and then you got to haul your gear and everything. But you're basically married to that spot, so you're going to sit there, probably whether they're biting it or not, until a certain time. And then you catch something, you don't. Now you try to look and pick a good spot out and have good bait. But the biggest difference is going and you might have an idea what's under the water. You may even have a friend of the boat that kind of told you something's under the water. But when you're out there and you're looking and you're seeing, especially with the newer technology, I mean, you see everything. You could pick out fish suspended. You can see tires. You can see old debris of barges. And that's so beneficial. And the great thing about having him is I probably leap 10 years of experience, because he's not only am I seeing what's there, but he's telling me, okay, you see this here, this is where they're going to be around something like that. Or if the river's like this, I would fish this kind of structure. But if it's like this, I would probably bypass that and fish this other structure. And so just having and be able to look at something like that with somebody like him and have him share that kind of information. I mean, you can't put a price tag on it. And let's face it, I mean, it's just good. Once you get to know somebody, go out there fishing, it's just fun. That's why we do this, But like I said, as far as making that adjustment, he made it. I probably wouldn't be able to go and do the things I was without having somebody like him, in the boat with me telling me these things. Because, like I said, for like somebody like Chris, if I was just jumping in there and looking at it myself, there's obviously going to be an even steeper learning curve, because not only do you see it, but now you got to go fish it and you get the experience yourself, rather than having somebody that has the experience share that with you. So yeah, it's definitely an experience. But I got help. Luckily, I had a lot of help this summer. So when I get my boat and get going over here, hopefully I got a little bit of a head start.
Oh, absolutely. You was telling us a while ago, and I have to make notes because I forget stuff, but that you had 71 teams in that tournament, and that tells me that in your area there's a need for catfish tournaments. Not only to have the tournaments in that area, but people want to be there. If they've only had them for 2 years and you had 71 teams entered in that particular tournament, that area is in need of somebody running quality tournaments and putting on a good show for these people to go to.
Yeah, and like I said, I've been trying to do what I can. Like I called you, I think it was maybe early 2013, late 2012, and started picking your brain because I wanted to start doing tournaments and start asking, folks like yourself that have been doing tournaments for a while, hey, what's the best way to do this? How do you do this? How do you do that? What happens about this? And thankfully, I had great people like yourself and that kind of share information with me. And so for me doing my tournaments, and he did a great job of marketing that tournament, really great job, the advertisement and everything. But hopefully we get, we try to cooperate with each other and, try to grow it to where it needs to be. Absolutely. We're working on it.
Is that the biggest tournament in your area that's been held up there?
I believe it's probably the biggest that's been up here. Yeah, probably.
Now, are they coming back to that area for the third year?
I don't know. I think they're having meetings right now. I spoke with the gentleman that runs it briefly, just sharing some information and maybe talking about teaming up. We're trying to talk about possibly starting a tournament trail, but it could be an issue, with trying to. It's hard enough to do a tournament or two, but sometimes, the tournament trail. Now you're talking about, okay, how we fund it, what about sponsors and stuff. So we're in talks about doing stuff like that, but it takes time and some cooperation to get stuff like that done.
It really does, and to my knowledge, and I could be off on this because I'm not in that area, but I don't remember seeing or hearing about any national events being put on in Pennsylvania. Now, maybe there has been a Cabela's or a Bass Pro or something like that up there that I'm not aware of, but if there has not been, you guys have the opportunity now to really jump on this and make it a big thing.
Well, maybe I need to contact the folks at Bass Pro because they put a BASS tournament on at Pittsburgh when I first moved up here, and they put it on right off the North Shore, right in front of Heinz Field, and there's a launch up there. You could literally launch probably about 15 or 16 boats at once, and there's obviously plenty of parking because of the stadium. So it has the ability, and you can fish 3 different rivers there too. So it definitely has the ability to do something like that, and I think you could probably have close to, probably well over 100 teams if, somebody like that were to get involved up here. And the problem I have and some of the other people is we're just us, and we kind of fund everything kind of out of our own pocketbook, so to speak, and that can be a little tough when you got a family and you try to explain to your wife why you're spending, a couple $100 on this or that to do a tournament, and but it would have to have somebody like that involved because unlike some other places, Pittsburgh, they kind of want money to use those areas instead of helping you out. So we're working on stuff like that. We've been talking about doing a tournament there because that's the best location, probably in a wide range over here. Just that right off the North Shore, it's built for it really.
Well, that's outstanding, and I'm really glad that you guys are putting that together. Like I said, if you're getting 71 teams to show up for a tournament, I'm not sure what the entry and stuff was on it, but it doesn't matter. 71 teams is 71 teams. You're looking at 140 people minimum that are taking their time out to come fish for catfish, and I would be surprised if there was any great number of other fishing tournaments that would have that many more boats than that. That's just a really good turnout.
Oh, it was pretty impressive, and the only thing I've seen better than that so far, I mean, when I went out there at Monsters and saw that, and 182, what it was, that was
yeah.
that was pretty crazy. But it's crazy, and you think that it's going to be how could they possibly manage something so big? But then you watch them, it was so impressive, and how well managed that was. I mean, I was in awe. I remember sitting out on the boat with everybody, waiting, and I'm thinking, did I just watch 182 boats get put in the water? This is insane.
Yeah, well, and it is, and Aaron has been doing this for what, 5 years now or 6, and he has, not only does he do a great job, but he has some of the best people helping him put that event on, and a lot of people don't understand how much work it is involved in doing tournaments unless they jump in and try to help out on one or try to do them themselves. And what you have to have is a bunch of donated labor, people that are willing to come in there and help you and not want paid a bunch of money to do it, because let's face it, if you do that, you have to pay for it somehow. To pay people. We used to pay people to sit at the boat ramp, night tournaments and day tournaments and stuff, and weigh fish if somebody got a fish in trouble. Well, you got to pay them. So we was paying them $100. Well, right away that comes right off of the top of your prize money, and people would get mad about that. Well, we was trying to fish the tournaments and work them and do all the stuff, and it got to the point where it just got so big that we had to quit fishing the tournaments and run them. And we donated all of our time and money and stuff into it, and I didn't mind that because it was so much fun. But there comes a point when you have to at least break even on what you do to be able to do that. And most of the smaller trails are not like the big trails, and people are trying to make money off of them. Most of the smaller trails are just trying to have a quality tournament that people will come and watch the weigh-in and fish the tournaments, and everybody have a good time. But it's kind of got to the point now to where I hate to say this, but you really almost got to get big or just stay small. There's no such thing as an intermediate type thing. It just has to be big or little, and there's nothing wrong with the little tournaments. I love fishing those small tournaments. One of the best things that Cindy and I done for years was the tournament that they have over in Peoria, Illinois. Tom and Timmy Walsh and some other guys put on over there, and they got flatheads over there, and they got some small blues. I haven't heard of any giant blues coming out there, but they got good flatheads, and it's basically a channel cat tournament, and I'm telling you, it's the most fun you can have. It don't cost a lot of money. And it's just a blast, and some of the greatest people in the sport of catfishing fish them tournaments. I mean, and you're competing against world-class guys. Tom and Timmy Walsh has laid it on some people this year in some of the tournaments. They went to fish the Cabela's tournament out on the East Coast and done really well. They come over here and fish a lot of the tournaments on the Mississippi, the Missouri River, and all over Illinois. And you got Mark Farrell that fishes them, and Joe Lucky and Jerry Klein. I mean, you're not going to fish against any tougher bunch of guys than you will right there. And they all love catching channel cat. And when you go to a tournament like that, Doug Rice is going to be there, and he's the channel cat king. I mean, that's just the way it is. These guys got national sponsors. You're talking about people sponsored by Cabela's and Twisted TWC and whoever else it is. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you go to a tournament, whether it be a channel cat tournament or a flathead tournament or a tournament where there's giant blues, if you're in that tournament to catch the biggest fish in that area, you will succeed. That's what it takes to win them. That's just the way I look at it.
What's great about what you just said there is you got these guys at these national sponsors, but they still haven't forgot where they came from and how it kind of all started. And it had to have started with just small tournaments, just like you're talking about. And you had a couple entities got lucky here or there and say, we can kind of make this bigger and bigger. And as it grew, so did the tournament and whatnot. And like I said, here, I can guarantee you I don't make any money from what I do. I don't think the other guy does either. And it's purely for the growth of the sport and for love of what we're doing here. And I honestly believe that this is a good enough place with enough people interested that it can grow here, and that's why I do what I do. And like I said, I've been blessed and impressed that run my tournament, my Steel City Catfish Classic. And like I said, I'm all about there being some other big tournaments here, because otherwise I won't ever get to fish. Because I don't get to fish my tournament. So You know, I'm like Aaron Wheatley. I have to stay back and run things. So luckily there's other big ones to go and fish. Otherwise, I'm stuck watching everybody else catch all the fish.
Well, and that's exactly right, and that's where the point we got to, and that's when and it's just like everything for us. Whenever it ceases to be fun, that's when I'm done doing it. And the catfishing tournament got to be more work than it was fun, and that's when we got Alex Nagy to run the tournaments. And I got to tell you, Alex is a godsend. He has absolutely done wonderful things with the little tournament series that we started. We're so happy for what he's done and proud of what he's done that it's unbelievable. And he'll do great things running tournaments. He's just got the ambition and he's got the drive to do it. And I had got away from it just simply because I didn't want to work that hard. With what I do and doing this show and different things, there comes a time when there's not enough time. And I'm glad that you guys have the time in your area to put these tournaments on, because if you're having 71 teams, the payouts will continue to grow. The next thing you know, you're going to get guys from Maryland and Washington, D.C. and Virginia and places show up to your tournaments. And when that happens and they start talking about it, the next thing you know, you'll get a guy from South Carolina and one from Illinois and one from Ohio. And pretty soon you'll be in the same boat that everybody else is. You'll be dragging in the guys to fish these tournaments.
I'll tell you something that speaks to the character of people. One, the 71-team tournament, like I said, Ben Sladek put on at Field and Stream Classic. Most of the proceeds went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and that was advertised as such, so everybody that got in there knew what was going on with that. The other thing about Matt McIntyre, the guy I've been fishing with and all summer, I'll be sad to see him go, but I'll be happy for him to get to see his family. But before we started the tournament, he said, "Listen, this is for a charity, so we're going to at least give some of the money that if we win, we're going to give some of the money back to the charity. We're not just going to take the money and run." And he was true to his word. And I said, "Look, whatever you do," he basically put it. He said that's what he's doing with his half. He said, "I can do what I want." And I said, "Whatever you do, I'll do. So I'll take your lead. However much you think we should get back, that's how much we'll get back. I'm no problem with that whatsoever. It's awesome." And sure enough, we gave $300 of the purse right back, and it was they were so tickled that you thought we'd just give them a winning lottery ticket or something, But this sport is so awesome. Is this stuff? There's one thing I wanted to touch on. I don't know if we're running out of time or not before we got off of here. I wrote some notes down. Gentlemen, as far as these tournaments and stuff, we are kind of under attack, and unfortunately, it's the product of our hard work and growing the sport. We've made it popular to the point where you have people trying to profit from it in a way that it hurts everybody else that's doing this, and that's the people that are stealing fish and putting them in pay lakes and stuff. And that's something. And then you also there's another attack coming from the I believe is it Maryland that's doing that down there in the James and the Potomac.
Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia. And so you have a lot of the big trophy fish that are being eradicated or taken and thrown into it. Basically, I mean, let's face it, it's a big pond, and they can come up with whatever they want. I've seen pictures. I'm not here to tell them that that you can't fish in a pay lake. What I'm saying is taking these big fish out of the river the way they're doing and putting them in these lakes, and then they die off, and they have to keep doing it year after year. It's a renewable resource if you take care of it, and that is a mismanagement of a resource. And if you mismanage a resource long enough, it will no longer be there. So these tournaments that we're talking about having, they're going to start to go away if there's nothing to fish for. So that's something that's going on, and I know you guys have talked about it last week in that awesome show that heck it broke your guys' chat room. Wanting to talk to advance. That's a hard act to follow.
It really is. And when you get to talking about that, I kind of was going to lay off of it because we are on them guys a lot. But when them guys start talking about them blues and flatheads being invasive species, and they never was in that river, well, they put them in there, and they've been in there long enough now that they can't be classified as an invasive species. When you stock that place with those fish, they then become a natural predator and deserve the opportunity to live and survive like everything else. And this stuff of them guys going in there and shocking these fish and loading them up in boats and taking them out of there, whatever laws they can pass and however harshly they can prosecute those people, they need to do that instead of worried about trying to clean those areas out of fish that they stocked to begin with.
I mean, I've seen this happen before a long, long time ago. If you look through history, alligator gar were indigenous to almost all over the United States. And now, while I'm not a huge, big, I guess if it was a gar tournament down there in Monster High, I probably won that. But
yeah, you had a dandy. You really did.
I mean, we were catching them left and right, but part of the problem. But people were afraid of them just because of how they looked. And they went and did the same thing. These big boats with the lines down the water, shocking, killing them, piling them up on banks, and they basically got rid of them, except for down, I think, was it just a part of Texas now they have them. Right. But come to find out, they do research and they learn a little bit. These things have never really attacked a person. When you look at them sitting in that Bass Pro Shop here in Springfield, they look like one of the most docile fish you're ever going to see. They're only nasty looking when you have them up on a boat and they're trying to get back in the water. So, it's just sad that they're not seeing a resource for what it is. I mean, they could really take advantage of it, or they can squander it. I mean, I saw the pictures of the gill nets, where they had a bunch of other species trapped in there too.
Exactly.
I mean, what good is that doing anybody?
Well, to start with, the gill net, when they catch them things and mess up them gills, it doesn't matter if it's a catfish or a sturgeon or whatever it is. Once them things get in them gills, them fish are going to die. It doesn't matter if it's something that you're legally allowed to take out or whether it's not. The fish is going to die. That is their breathing apparatus. That's like taking your nose off your face. Once it's gone, once it's destroyed, you can't breathe and they can't either. So whatever they get in that gill net, those gill nets should be outlawed for anything other than catching bait. I mean, that's
largemouth bass. They kill largemouth bass. They kill largemouth bass. If people would figure that out, they would be gone in a minute.
That's exactly right, because bass is the #1 thing nationwide that people want to protect. And catfish, and I don't know about this all over the United States, but in my state of Missouri, catfish is the #1 sport fish fished for statewide. And it's not by just a little bit. It's by a huge margin. And that's why it's so important to me that we take care of this resource. And that's why I'm on the Department of Natural Resources, Missouri Department of Conservation. I'm on them guys all the time, and I'm not on them nearly enough because I don't have enough people backing me up to get these regulations passed like they passed on the lakes. Those regulations should have been put on the river systems where they needed long before they was ever put on those lakes. Not that the lakes don't need them, but these guys are commercial fishing these breeding size fish, and these clowns know what they're doing. They're coming from states away now. As regulations get passed in Indiana and Ohio and Illinois and different places, they come to Missouri because Missouri has the most boat ramps, makes it easy accessible to the Mississippi River, and they're taking my fish out and hauling them across state lines. And I promise you, if you haul a live deer or a live rabbit across the state line, you're going to jail. It's just that simple, and it's no different with a catfish. That's a live animal coming out of Missouri, and if it crosses state lines, you should be in jail like you would be if it was any other wildlife. So Missouri needs to step up, and I've brought this up many times, that the Missouri Department of Conservation needs to get on it and get this done. I know they're doing studies, and I know those studies takes time. But with everybody else doing it and everybody else realizing what is happening, it's time to get on with it, quit fooling around, and make this 34-inch rule and slot limits and stuff go into effect to protect these breeding size fish.
Hey Lyle, do you ever have any or put out any invites to the people that are voting on these laws to like some of the tournaments or anything like that?
Well, #1, in our state, there is a group of people that make the decisions. It's not actually done. They have a 4 or 6 group people that make the decisions, and they won't even tell you their names for the most part. You have to really research and find it, and that's all good. But when I shouldn't got on this subject because I'm going to be hard to handle now, but you know, they brought a law into effect. Missouri is a very populated area. It has a lot of farming ground too, but they actually brought elk in and trying to restock elk in the state of Missouri. There's too many people for that. What the hell are these guys thinking? But yet they let these people rape the rivers and take these catfish out to other states and put in pay lakes. I just, for the life of me, I don't know. I think that they must have skipped school or something, because that's just the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Just blows my mind. But yeah,
doesn't make any sense to me. They're not benefiting from that at all.
no,
You know,
no, and it's not in every area. It's not in every area. They have select areas to do it, and that's all fine and good. But can you imagine what devastation? You know, I've been hunting in Colorado. I went elk hunting out there, and these farmers, they put these huge fences around their hay stock, and these elk will come in there when the snow gets high, and they'll just trample them fences down and eat all their hay, and they can't feed their cattle. And if there was ever any kind of population in the state of Missouri, I can't imagine hitting one of them things with my vehicle. There's just no way. And we have a great natural resource that is being depleted by commercial fishermen and these guys selling them to pay lakes and stuff. And I'm not saying that do away with commercial fishing or anything like that. There's a place for that. And you can start by catching these Asian carps and taking them to these places that process them. Get rid of them things. There is an overabundance of those. So it's not that you can't do it, but if they ever do pass laws like they have on Truman and Lake of the Ozarks, the problem I'm having is they're not trying to catch these guys breaking these laws, number one. Number two, if they catch them, the fines need to be substantial enough that they'll never want to do it again. I promise you, if you go down the road right now, and breaking a law is breaking a law. If you go down the road and you get caught doing 120 miles an hour, you're going to spend the night in jail. And then the fine is going to be astronomical. Well, there's no difference in breaking that law than breaking a law catching a catfish. If the law says you're only allowed 2 over 34 inches, then if you have a third one in there, you take them to jail, make them spend the night in jail, and make that $1,000 fine for every fish they got over it, or $100 an inch, or $100 an ounce, like they do turkeys or something like that. You have to make the penalty be as severe as it is with anything else.
I can tell you right now, if they were over here poaching trout or steelhead in this state, I don't know if they'd ever get out of jail.
Well, and you know, I know guys that have read articles where guys have been caught killing turkeys illegally and different things, and frog legs. The last I knew, if you got caught with illegal frog legs before season, it was $25 a leg. Well, that's $50 a frog, and if you got 100 frogs, that's a ton of money. You know, and if you get caught with an illegal turkey shot out of season, it was $25 or some dollars an ounce for that turkey. You're only going to shoot one of them illegally and get caught. You ain't going to do it again. And that's what they need to do with these catfish regulations. Make the fine so substantial that they either can't pay it or they got to set it out, or that if they do pay it, they ain't never going to do it again.
I feel bad for getting your blood pressure all up now. You're all fired up.
I am. I'm sorry. But, you know, I get wound up about this because our rivers need these regulations. And I can prove that very simply, Joe. The Missouri River, they knocked off commercial fishing on the Missouri River several years ago. And you look at what's being caught from St. Louis to Kansas City right now, and look at some of them weigh-ins that Brad Kilpatrick's getting with Kansas City catfish. Look at some of them tournaments that they're fishing around Waverly and places like that. These guys are knocking out some fish that a few years ago, the only time you seen fish like that caught in the state of Missouri was on the Mississippi River. And now you see less of them caught on the Mississippi and more caught on the Missouri. And don't tell me they're traveling up and down that river in the summertime, because they go down the river in the summertime and head south, and then they come back up in winter up there, so that ain't going to fly. But it made a huge difference on the quality of fish and the number of breeding size fish that's on the Missouri River, and it will make a difference once all these states get together and get these regulations on that Mississippi River. And you'll still be able to keep as many or more fish. You just got to turn back a few of the big ones and preserve the fish for future generations. It's just that simple.
Yes, sir. That's the Kansas City tournament. That's the one they have with that 90 pounder they had that was weighed into the tournament.
That's correct.
Impressive.
It is,
Wish I had that a couple weeks ago.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Chuck, what else you got for Joe?
Yeah, Joe, I was wanting to ask you about some national trails are showing interest in Pennsylvania. It seems that Cabela's King Cat has one coming to Chester, PA, on the Delaware River. The problem we've seen with a lot of these that we don't see a lot of advertisement made to where a lot of people know that these events are happening. What do you see can be done to get these tournaments out there to let the local guys know that there's a big tournament trail coming to Pennsylvania to offer them a chance to fish these big tournaments? And what's a good way to get it out there so everybody know that it's going to be available next year? And what do you think about them making that move, coming up there and fishing the Delaware River?
Well, first of all, I mean, kudos to them. I mean, that's awesome. I always like to hear good news like that. I mean, what they need to do is reach out to the people who actually look to for catfishing information. You guys obviously are a good source of information for people. I try my best to keep up with everything. I really hadn't. That's first I'd heard about that, so that's something I can share on my couple pages that I have, and then you get one person to share it with two people, and they share it with two people, and they share it with two people. Before you know it, a couple of thousand people know about the tournament. So the internet obviously I think is probably the best resource for that. Aaron Wheatley's got a unique setup over there where that city is completely 100% behind him and what he does, and that really, I think, facilitates him to be able to do the great things that he does, and kudos on them. I mean, I can't say enough about that place. That was never seen anything like it, but it's just going to take a little bit of time and people like yourself and myself and others like us to get the word out, Okay. And it's not something. Well, maybe if they quit showing crappie on TV and start showing the catfishing tournaments, like you said last week, we'll get the word out.
Yeah, this is it's going to be June 18th out of Chester, Pennsylvania, on the Delaware River. For these guys that fish the Potomac River and maybe upper Virginia areas and all that, if they decide to make a trip up there to fish that Cabela's, what type of fishery can you tell them that is, and what would they expect to catch in that area?
Well, from talking to my buddy, I don't plan to be an expert over there. I don't go over there as much. But Glenn Orr, who's my partner for Monsters, he does, and he actually goes down and fishes the Potomac with those guys, and vice versa. So, but he told me, I mean, I think it's Flathead and Channel Cat up there on the Delaware, I believe. Maybe somebody can hop on the chat and correct me if I'm wrong. From what he told me, that's what it is. And did they say whether that's a nighttime tournament or a daytime tournament?
I'm not really sure. It's going to be June 18th. I don't know what they're venturing into.
If it's nighttime, then obviously they're going after flatheads. I mean, if it's daylight hours, then it's going to be probably mostly channels with some flatheads mixed in there. And then that's as far as I know. I don't know that there are blues in the Delaware. I just know of the flatheads and channel cats.
Okay, so you didn't know about the Cabela's coming up that way?
I may have heard somebody mention it once or twice, but it wasn't something that I had, maybe they said it's a possibility, or they heard somebody talk about it or something like that. But I got it written down now, that's for sure. So. Oh
yeah, it's going to be,
it'll be a birthday present. It's supposed to be a birthday.
Yeah, it's awesome that it's going to be start time 6:30 a.m., stop time 3 p.m. So it's going to be a day tournament. So these guys get a taste of this Cabela's King Cat that's coming to town. So now's their chance. The more participation that happens at these things, the easier it's going to be for them to keep returning and coming back. And I believe the kind of boat count y'all had, up on the Field and Stream Classic, I'm sure that some of those guys. Pennsylvania is a pretty wide state, so from Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh, it's not like they're right next door to each other. It's a pretty good cruise from one side to the other. What would it take to get from Pittsburgh to Pennsylvania?
That's about a 5-hour drive, I imagine, on a
Yeah, so
turnpike.
yeah, so the guys that live on the west side, to make that trip, that's going to be even though it's in their state, it would be some huge dedication to make that type of trip for that type of event. A 5 or 6 hour trip for that. So if these guys do venture over for that, that'll be awesome. If there's a big 50, 60 boat count on a Cabela's event like this for their first time, it will be awesome to start seeing that type of turnouts.
I agree, sir. That's right. Cabela's, Bass Pro, call me. We'll do it in Pittsburgh. We'll make it happen. Give me a call.
When's the last time, or do you remember one coming anywhere close to Pittsburgh?
There's one down in Morgantown. I want to say that's I think it's a Cabela's.
Yeah, Morgantown, Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia, I believe.
West Virginia.
Yeah, and that's one of the point qualifiers for their national championship too. So I know of that one. I think that's the closest one that I know of to this area, and that's actually a 2-hour drive. So that's not too bad.
That's a far cry less than what you drove down to see Aaron Wheatley.
Well, Aaron, that's a pretty far cry, awesome thing they got going on over there in Kentucky to make me go that far cry west.
It is, and every time we talk about it, I don't know how far you went, but I know it was a long drive, and those boys from Maryland and up in there, they come down and drove 12, 13 hours to get to that tournament, and that in itself just tells you the quality of event that is put on down there.
I'll tell you what, sir, I can't say enough good things about Glen Orr. We got in touch a couple weeks before the tournament. I was so excited because I don't got a boat. I just got this house, I got a truck, and I got a wife, so I ain't got a boat yet. But I'm working on it. But he asked me, we were talking, he says, going to the Monsters? I said, kind of sheepishly and embarrassedly, I'm like, no, I ain't got a boat, and, nobody asked me. And he said, well, maybe we should go. And I was like, well, we'll see, we'll see if we can make it happen. And we made it happen, and I'm so appreciative because he drove, I think his total drive for coming to pick me up, because he had to go about a half hour out of his way each way, that tacked about another hour onto his trip. It had to have been close to 12 or 13 hours. And it was a good 9 hours from here. So, and I think he had another 4 hours to get back home. So, I mean, that's some dedication and impressive. And I really, really can't say enough good things about him and his stepson Gavin that we had on the boat. That kid was awesome to have on the boat, and they were both super cool and really great to fish with. I wish we'd put a couple, some more stuff in the boat, but talk about getting there, getting out pre-fishing, just have a positive attitude the whole time and just making a good time of it, man. It was awesome. I really thank you so much, Mr. Glen Orr, and that was really awesome for letting me be on your boat for that tournament. I really appreciate it.
Well, you know what? I have to commend you and Glenn both for bringing his son down to that tournament. There is so many worse things that young people can get involved in, and as you know, and a lot of other people know, one of the things, or a couple of the things that really I'm high on catfishing is the fact that we're trying to get women and kids involved in the sport. We work very hard at that, and that young man made that long trip back and forth. He sat in the boat with you guys when you pulled up to me and we was all fishing for bait. I was thrilled with the fact that you had him in the boat, and that's an outstanding thing because, like I say, there's so many things worse than catfishing that these kids can be doing, and he'll make friends and acquaintances catfishing that he never will make playing video games.
I can guarantee you. I mean, Jason Kittner was palling around with him the whole time. He was pretty happy about that.
Well, now I'm not real sure that Jason Kittner is something else. He is a great guy. He's a good ambassador for the sport. And if that young man will buddy up to Jason Kittner, he'll learn how to catch some fish.
And you know what's cool about that young man Gavin is so we're going around the whole 3 days. He's like, oh, I know that boat. I seen it in videos. I know who that is. He did this and he did that. And I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, oh, I know that guy. I seen him do this. I seen him at the weigh-in at this tournament. So he's on there. He's watching these guys, and I'm just so happy that there's so many good people involved in the sport. That kid has so many good people to look up to and everything. Because that's just awesome, you know. Because it was pretty impressive and sometimes borderline pretty funny at times. But you know, just to hear him just stop in the middle of a sentence and say, "Oh, I know that boat. I seen it," you know, and it was a good time, really good time.
That's great. That's just outstanding. You know, and like I say, we're all thrilled with the fact that you brought him down there, and it's really cool that he enjoyed himself and stayed in the boat and done all the stuff. And you know, he'll be back. You guys are coming. I know you'll be back. You can't go to the going to the Monsters on the Ohio is kind of like eating Lay's potato chip. You can't just do it once. You know, once you're there, you got to keep going back. Is that not right, Chuck?
That's right. I mean, you might experience a little hardship for a month or two after, but you're going to go.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a premier event, and I mean I'm politicking, trying to get down to that, and the one that's going to be forming up with your guest last week down there in Mississippi. So I'm politicking, trying to get down there next year as well.
You know, Georgia is putting together what I feel like will probably be, and the only reason that I say this is because it's going to be on the Mississippi River, and that's such a great fishery. But he probably is going to have the biggest catfish tournament that's ever been held, and he's got a number to shoot at. Aaron Wheatley made that statement. He is 100% correct. With 182 boats entered in Monsters on Ohio, George has got a number to shoot for, but I look for him to have over 200 boats, and it being on the Mississippi River and right there at Memphis, and with all the stuff that's going to be going on, I feel like that is very possible. But one of the things that I will mention that I think will make and has made an outstanding difference for what George is doing is the fact that he contacted Aaron to help him set this thing up or get information or the guidance or whatever you want to call it. And Aaron was good enough to say, okay, yeah, here's what works, here's what don't work, here's what I'd recommend, here's what I don't think you should do. These guys are working together. This will be two of the biggest tournaments of 2016, and you got two of the premier guys putting it on and helping each other. You know, George was at the Monsters. He'll be at the Monsters next year. Aaron's going to be up there, and he's not going to fish the tournament. He's going to help George make this tournament the best they can. These guys are working together, and this is what all these tournament directors need to do. They need to get together and all work together. Something we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks is rule unification. It needs to happen, at least to a certain degree, and we're going to be discussing this a little more, but these things, we've got to get a handle on some of this to keep catfishing growing and going in the right direction, and George and Aaron are making that happen by working together, and there's no reason why all these guys can't do the same thing.
I agree. That's why I got in contact with Ben Sladek, who does the Field and Stream, and I do my tournament. The way I look at it is the only way we're going to make it grow is instead of competing against each other is working together. And,
that's right.
There's some just recently there's been a lot of important points made that I really agree with wholeheartedly about getting a lot of the drama out of the sport, because it's hard to grow when you got people bickering at each other for kind of selfish and childish things. And oh, he uses this. I don't like him because he uses this equipment, or I don't like him because he uses that equipment. I mean, how silly is that? Very silly. So I'm glad that there was a lot of stuff done the last couple of weeks to kind of get that out of the way, and you don't have to worry about who you're talking to and what equipment they're using. You can just talk to buddies and fellow catfishermen and have a good time. Because that's the way this we got to do it. And when talking about young kids too, that sets a bad example for them too. It's what's good is you talk to people because of the character of the person and not the the shirt he wears or the fishing rod he uses. So it was really cool. I was glad to see it because, I mean, you guys know as well as I do, you guys are doing this longer than me. It seems like forever there's always been some kind of drama in the background stirring stuff up, and it's glad to start seeing get that kicked out of places, where it belongs. So
Yeah.
that's real good too.
Some really good things have happened over the past month that I'm really excited about. And, when I first got involved with catfishing, I had quite a few people tell me this exact thing. And they wasn't friends or nothing. They said, look, if you start getting into this really well, you're going to have to pick sides and don't burn no bridges. And I'm like, are we like going to be in gangs here, or are we going to be catfishing? I didn't understand what they were talking about. And then, after some things that happened over the past month, and it's really cleared a lot of people's heads, and I think everybody's going to be able to just forget about the past and move on to where everybody's wanting to head now. And that's a big thing that me and Lyle talked about that we want to accomplish with Catfish Weekly if we accomplished anything else. And that was to make catfishing united. Everything was united. So, we put a lot into that, and that's what Catfish Weekly is all about. If you're a free range, rod and reel, catfishing, angling sportsman, you're welcome to be part of our family.
That's awesome.
So yeah, man, it was great having you on tonight, man. And I've been waiting to ask you all these questions. I just didn't get to spend enough time with you in Owensboro to ask you all this. I know I picked your brain a little bit because I was interested in how all of a sudden big flatheads ended up in Pennsylvania. Nobody knew they were there, and I got the lowdown on that. And so, and when I found out, I knew everybody was saying Joe, and when I found out you was the one that was on the cooking show, it rang a bell right then. I mean, that clicked on me. And, I asked you, I said, which one of you guys was on the cooking show? Because I knew it was you. And you're like, that was me.
Yeah, that was after
like,
we'd already spent the whole night at the captain's meeting. You didn't figure that out till after we were at the weigh-in.
Oh, yeah, I didn't. You had the sunglasses and everything on. And
right.
I had to turn my back to you to face the stage.
Yeah.
And I would turn around, and Jason was on this side. So you was kind of behind me the whole time. And
I was like a third wheel.
Yeah, I was. Gavin was stealing everybody's attention. I mean, he's the man. Gavin is. He, me and him are buddies too. He's buddies with everybody. He looks forward up to so many people, and you've just got to set the greatest example in the world around these younger guys, because they're walking around looking up at us, and they're thinking we're the greatest things in the world, the greatest thing that ever happened. And we're really nothing, but to them we're great. So we should feel good about that and give back, and put what they think we are, make ourselves great for them, and make this sport great for them to move on into when it's time.
I agree. You think they're not watching, but I guarantee you they're watching every little thing you do. That's for sure.
I'm so impressed at the fact that you said a while ago that Gavin would see a boat and he said, well, that's such and such and that's such and such. I don't know how old he is. He's not very old. And for him to have knowledge of who's in what boat by watching videos and stuff that people post on Facebook is pretty impressive.
I'll tell you what, he knew more than I did.
He knew exactly who I was. And
that's awesome.
Like, really? And that's before I was introduced to his dad. So
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we was outside, and I was standing around him and his dad, but I hadn't been introduced to him yet. And I'm like, where do I know you from if you know me? He's an awesome little guy, and he just loves catfishing so much. And as long as these guys are out doing this instead of sitting in their rooms playing video games and getting into the drug scenes and the gang fighting and the bullying and everything that's going on in school, and grow up some good old kids, their lives are going to be on track.
You
and they're
betcha.
going to be heading where they need to be.
You betcha. Well, listen, guys, we've been going on about an hour, 20 minutes on the show. As with every week, Joe, we offer you the time to talk about any upcoming events you have in your area, or sponsors, or people you just want to talk about before we close out the show. And at this time, if you have anything that you want to talk about, here it is.
All right. I think George Young said it best last week. I just appreciate all the companies that are making this sport, great like it is. There are a couple bigger companies, but it's mostly smaller companies and people doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and that's really awesome. I have a couple in particular. I have my personal sponsors. I don't have much. Denali Rods and Thrasher Sports Apparel. Those guys have been, I've been fortunate enough for them to put faith in me in what I do. And then I have, of course, the couple of these you might be recognized from my tournaments. Black Horse Custom Rods from Mr. Lyle Stokes, Whiskerware Apparel, Bottom Dwellers Tackle, Rip and Lips, Drift Brothers Tackle, Drift Master Rod Holders, and Cat River Anchors. Those companies right there are the reason why I'm able to put on a tournament here, at all. And it's really, you can talk about money and stuff, but boy, when you have awesome products that yourself and these other companies donate, that's what really draws the people in, and that's what's really growing and fueling the growth of the tournament scene here in Pennsylvania. And I just wanted to give a special thanks to Matt McIntyre, who couldn't be on here tonight, and Glenn Orr for taking me on as his partner for Monsters of Ohio, and little Gavin over there for making it a fun time. I appreciate it.
That's outstanding, Joe. We appreciate you being on the show so much, and thanks a lot. And I'm sure we'll be visiting with you again. At this time, Chuck, if you've got anything that you want to talk about.
Those of y'all who wondered where the last tournament on the Alabama Catfish Trail went, we had planned to fish. Daniel planned a big Alabama River event that a lot of us has been dying to go down the Alabama River because of the huge flatheads, the state records from down there, and the Alabama come down with this, let's cut cost and start shutting down all these state parks. So the place we had planned to go out of down there, one of the really only boat-friendly places that would have really been able to hold a tournament, they decided to shut it down. So that kind of killed the last tournament for him. But he's having a makeup tournament on November 7th in Scottsboro, Alabama, to make up for it. So it's everybody's last time for this year to get together. It's going to be at Scottsboro. You can go to the site to see the exact location on the address and all, and it's going to be a day tournament from 7 to 4. And I don't know if I'll be able to make it yet. I'm going to try real hard, but he's changing some things around for 2016. The 2015 rules are going to apply, but after the tournament, he's going to be announcing the changes that he's going to be made. And if he's making changes, they're going to be for the better. So I'm real eager to see what he's got in store for everyone next year that's going to be fishing his trail.
All right. Well, there's a couple things that I want to go over with. Number one, this has been a really great tournament season for everybody nationwide. From the big tournaments that Brad Kilpatrick has put on at Kansas City Catfish and the 98-pound fish that they put in the boat up there the other day, them guys really got it going on. George Young announcing what he's got going, and of course the Monsters on the Ohio and everything in between. We had a pretty good season between Cindy and I, and we're very happy with what we had with the limited amount of time we had. The thing that I want to touch on just for a second has nothing to do with catfishing. It's a personal note of mine. I celebrating my 58th birthday today, and the number of people that have sent me messages and private messages and posted on Facebook and sent me emails and stuff, I cannot tell you guys what that means to me. It's just it's a really huge deal. And I was fortunate enough to have my son and another guy come over that was doing some work on our house yesterday, and we had a little fish and pecan pie, which is what I get other than Then birthday cakes, I get pecan pies, and I used to eat the whole thing, and now I can only have a little piece of it once in a while, but that's okay. You know, I still enjoy it. It was a great day that we had, and tonight I got the rest of my birthday present along with some chicken, and I got me this, which will last me a long time, but I'm going to enjoy it very much. So from everyone here at Catfish Weekly, Joe Gordon, thank you so much, and for Chuck Davison, I'm Lyle Stokes, and thanks for watching.